Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. This episode is brought to you by the docuseries Born to Box, which is a gritty documentary about the business and the industry of boxing from the perspective of fighters, trainers, and boxing insiders. Jay, something interesting developed here over the past couple of days. And this was a comment specifically from Victor Conte in regards to Errol Spence and what occurred as a part of his training camp, which was very, very interesting. Now, before I dive into this, shout outs to my guy, Manager Marty, who was able to get Victor Conte on his platform. So make sure you go check out his live stream where he has exclusive content relative to Victor Conte. But as a part of that discussion, Jay, what I found to be interesting is a comment that he made specifically about Errol Spence's training camp. Now, we all saw Errol Spence a week out before the fight running in Las Vegas. And it was interesting because we saw him with Frank Martin and some other fighters. Errol was the only one that had on a long sleeve shirt and long pants, and we just assumed that he was still trying to make the weight. So, of course, we all assumed that he might be weight drained during the fight. That's the reason why he looked like that. Victor Conte actually provided his perspective on the reason why Errol Spence performed the way that he performed. Now, there's something that Victor Conte explained, Jay, called altitude sickness. It's when you elevate up to 8,000 feet above sea level. And you do that at a rapid pace without giving your body the opportunity to acclimate. And if you, they ran at, I think it was called Mount Charles, where these guys ran that day. They ran 5 miles up Mount Charles, up to the top. This is my understanding. And Victor Conte got this from Brian Mendoza, who was also a part of that run. So he was with those fighters. And what he basically said was because Errol didn't give his body the time to acclimate, he believed Errol suffered from altitude sickness. Now, altitude sickness, I'm just going to go here real quick, Jay. I have pulled that up. It's known as an acute mountain sickness. It is a condition that occurs when individuals ascend to higher altitudes, typically above 8,000 feet above sea level at a rapid pace without giving their bodies enough time to acclimatize. So Jay, that's interesting, and it causes all kind of fatigue, nausea, weakness, shortness of breath, loss of appetite, swelling in the hands, feet, or face. So these are all things that can occur because of that. Now, I don't know if that's something that affected Errol Spence, and Victor Conte was sure to make sure he said he didn't want to take anything away, but he wanted to make it clear in terms of what he believed that challenge was with Errol Spence. Now, if this is the case, and Conte talked a lot about the science of what they do, looking at the blood, the oxygen level, things of that nature to understand whether or not you might be having a cold coming on, or it might be time for you to train more or less based off of, attributes of your blood. We've wondered, in terms of Team Spence, like what level of expertise does he have in his camp? I have absolutely no idea, but I think it's very smart to have science in your camp, right? So that you can use what is available to you for you to perform better. And if this is a situation where it's true that he did that and it affected him negatively, then you got to ask yourself, how is it that Team Spence allowed this to happen? Right. You know what I mean? Like they should have already known that he wasn't going to be able to do something like that. If that were the case. So, I mean, do you feel like maybe Conte is calling into question the competency of the team? It sounds like it. I know a lot of people are going to get upset and just to completely dismiss this because it's Victor Conte. I understand that. Yeah. But at the same time, Conte is a scientist and he knows what he's talking about. And when you just look at the definition of altitude sickness, and we saw Spence, now we don't know if he actually ran up to the top of that mountain. We're relying on Victor Conte, where, basically Brian Mendoza is saying that. But I mean, how would you allow your fighter to do that? I mean, you got to have that science in place. And a lot of people felt like that wasn't the same Errol, man. So what's your thoughts on that, Jay?
I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily, questioning their competency for Spence's team, but he's definitely, kind of like giving himself a high five and pat on the back of his knowledge. I mean, and based on what you said and what he shared, it could show some credibility. I mean, on what we've heard about, Spence already having a prior injury that kind of impacted the training then, and then this right here, knowing that it can make you, fatigued, sluggish. And that's all the descriptions that most people gave when they saw Spence, going into that fight. So I mean, it is coming from Victor Conte. We know his old story about Balco. I've seen some people in our comment section and even our lives saying that if you know Balco the full story, then you would know he's been, he's kind of turned his life around and been doing the right way. But people always say once a cheater, always a cheater. So it's still, people are gonna have that. He's always gonna have that stigma around him, But his thoughts on this is, I mean, it's interesting to say. I mean, we felt Spence was just doing that running just to try to lose the weight. I think he still was doing that, but to your point, you just gotta get acclimated. I mean, that's even that's it. I mean, that's just in anything. When you go from one time zone to the next, you need to get yourself acclimated to that new time zone for your body can be ready for that. You don't want to be extra tired or not getting enough sufficient sleep. So being acclimated to doing whatever training is key. Completely agree on that. I'm no scientist, but to me, that just makes sense to me to get yourself acclimated. So I wouldn't say if it's it's a short part on Spence's team or what. I think they probably just didn't know, to that degree, and it possibly could have impacted them. I mean, it's definitely good information from Victor Conte. I'm not the biggest Victor Conte fan, but like you said, I respect science, and I like that information he gave.
Yeah, same man. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a logic guy, which means I'm a
Has to
science
make
guy,
sense.
right? I'm a science guy, and I think it's always intelligent to use the latest, science, sports medicine. I guess that's what they call it, or technology, whatever you want to call it. You want to use the latest thing that is available to you to give you that extra edge, and my thing is if you're not doing this and you're an elite level athlete, then you should be doing it. And I don't know if Blu-ray is that answer. I have no idea. Blu-ray may just have a feel for Errol Spence and understands what it is his body responds to very well and what it doesn't, just because of how long he's been training with him. And that could be something that, when Blu-ray said, he feels like he could have got him ready for this fight in a lot better fashion. Maybe just because of the sheer nature of the fact that they have a relationship and he's been working with him so long that maybe he doesn't need to, maybe look at the blood as much or whatever. I don't know. He may just have a feel for Errol and be able to determine whether or not Errol should train more today or fall back and rest, what have you. But at the end of the day, I would absolutely add science to the regimen. And if it doesn't already exist, because maybe it does, but if this did occur, I would struggle to believe that he has people in his corner that are really the scientists and understand what all these things mean. And then he couldn't have, because they wouldn't allow him to go out there and run on that 5-mile run in the mountains.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I mean, think about some of the ways some of the boxers do when they travel. They get there weeks in advance, so they can acclimate to that area.
And he
They
was 2
start
weeks
training over
there.
there and get acclimated.
I think he was 2 weeks.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not Victor Conte. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, so I don't know. How long. We don't know when that run actually happened. Time
Oh, it was
frame
the
is
week of
key
the
in
fight.
that.
It was early in the week. It was like early in the week of the fight. I remember that. Pretty sure it
So
was.
I mean, that close to the fight. So I mean, Victor Conte may have some, I think he definitely has credibility despite of what happened back in the day with Balco. But I mean, there has some validity in the situation at hand. We'll see. But I mean,
Seems like it.
science to me, it's science to you, and science to me is key in knowing, about. But the more you know, the better you'll be, in my opinion.
Totally agree. So again, this episode was brought to you by the film Born to Box, or the docuseries. Go check it out, www.borntoboxfilm.com. I've seen some of the content there, man. It's gonna be absolutely incredible. Go check it out. You guys, let us know what you think about Victor Conte's comments in the comment section. Shout out to my guy, Manager Marty. Make sure you go check out his live stream. We can get more information from Victor Conte. And until next time, peace.